trying to find his way. He's about to have a baby, might not even graduate. Recruiter at the school told him sign a piece of paper and he'll get a big old bonus, early leave with extra pay. He said okay and signed his name along the dotted line. Kissed his mother on the cheek, told her he's gonna be fine. Gave his girl a promise ring, told her soon as he gets back they'll get married. Never would've thought he's only coming back to be buried. But back to the story, from boot camp to Iraq he's deployed. He wouldn't swat a nap, but now he's got a gat to destroy. I feel bad for the boy, all he wanted was to laugh and enjoy, but took two in the back, ended up another casualty of war. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious, but in the end it's our decision. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious.
Test your might.
I like these headphones, man.
Yes. Headphones are so good.
They really are, and they're comfortable too.
Well, you know what's crazy? The crazy thing about those headphones? Those are the headphones that we got 20 years ago when we started.
And they
I've been using them ever since. Ever since. What's that?
I was just checking.
Oh, I thought you said shit.
No, I said check.
Shit.
I guess that did sound like that.
The crazy thing is, I go to these deal sites all the time.
Right.
And not so much within the last couple of years, but there for a while I was checking them every day, all day. And we'd had these headphones for like 15 years, and they lasted that long. I never had a reason to look for headphones, but I would always see them when they'd pop up on these deal sites, different types of headphones.
Right.
Those, I had a pair of headphones that I had for 15 years, snap and break, and
that same
and
week.
I was the next day.
Shut up.
Dude, the next day it was the first time I'd ever saw those headphones.
Nice.
And I checked those sites every day.
The universe communicates with us in mysterious ways.
Dude, it was so weird.
It's really weird. Like I was just telling you about that. Let me turn this mic down a little bit.
All right.
Like I was just telling you about that glass kerosene lantern.
Yes.
I look at the bid thing, and then the next auction I'm looking at, another one pops up right on it.
That's so weird. Like, what are the odds of that?
It's just the universe communicating with the things we need, man.
Yeah.
It's funny how it works.
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect.
Sounds pretty good over here.
So glad we're getting another podcast done.
Yes. I'm going to take one of my ears off because I can't.
Oh, yeah. That's what was different.
Yeah.
I knew something was off.
Yeah. It was a little weird.
I thought, man, I'm sounding super loud right now. That's why I turned the mic down.
Yep. That was it for me, too. And then I couldn't hear you. I was like,
yeah.
How are we going to have the podcast if I can't hear what he's saying?
Wasn't right.
How do we do this before?
We're a week late. We've been busy.
Yeah. That's all right. We're not on. We can do it whenever.
Whenever, dude.
Yeah.
Whenever.
Yeah. We got together last Thursday to do it, but my brain was so mush, man. I was just tired. And
I was right there with you.
I came over to do it and thought, man, I'm going to go home at midnight, get some good sleep. And I got home at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I know, when you come over and said, man, if we're going to do it, we should probably do it right now because I'm so tired. And I remember thinking, dude, I haven't slept good in like 3 days. And I'm like the king of getting good sleep and taking naps when I can and stuff. And I've just been so busy. I've just been overworking myself, I'm not even going to lie, that I haven't been allowing for proper sleep. And I've adjusted that the past few days. But that night you come over and said that, I thought, damn, this is great because it's probably a good idea for me too. I was like, no, Randy, let's just chill. Like, we'll just chill. But yeah, we ended up hanging out till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
But it was like a chill, because when we're just hanging out, we don't have to like think. You know, not that we're saying we have to think when we're on the podcast, but we have to try to be on top, of our thinking. And
plus there's a lot of times where we're in conversation and we know that we've referenced things about conversations in the past. So in the podcast, we have to be aware about things, explaining things that other people may not have reference to. You know what I mean?
Right. And also when we're just kind of like hanging out, it's okay if we're in the middle of a conversation and I'm like, Randy, don't mind me if I'm sounding delirious because I'm just delirious. And I remember having that conversation with you like that night. It got to be really late. And I was like, dude, my thinking's off right now. That's not the way you want to be thinking for a podcast. But I remember also, because I remember you was like, dude, I'll take off. I was like, no, I don't want you to leave. Like, I'm having a great time. I was like, I just want you to be aware that, like, I'm kind of delirious right now, but please don't leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the best nights.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, you know, and that's how it is for me. Like, I didn't want to go to bed. If we didn't have to sleep, and, you know, if you didn't need so much required sleep to feel good the next day, we would have stayed up longer that night. You know what I'm saying? Like, my soul is driven to do more than my body can handle a lot of the times. You know what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying.
It can catch up to me.
Yeah. But speaking of required sleep, I think that there's a hack for that. Man, I'll tell you what, the sleep in those float tanks.
Oh, man.
Is like, you sleep for, you know, if you, we should do a 2-hour. We should book a 2-hour sometime this winter and go treat ourselves to a nice float.
We do need to go back.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
A 2-hour visit is totally different too, man. Like it's intense too. Yeah, it really is.
It's intense.
Yeah.
I remember because I've always had a profound fear of sharks. It's just, you know, and you got to wonder too, not to say I still wouldn't have been scared of sharks, but you have movies like Jaws growing up as a kid.
Right.
You know, and stuff like that. So a lot of these fear tactic movies, and I'm not saying that movie was for fear tactics, but it does cause fear in a young kid. So, I, you know, just like I've always had that fear of spiders, and I think everyone does. Spiders are just creepy looking, and they're fast. You can't catch them hardly, you know. So that's just kind of scary in itself. Right. And with sharks, they're so big that you know if you get caught with one, you're done. You know, so that's just a natural fear. But I've always had this strange fear. Like, you know, we grew up after we was able to move into a house with a swimming pool. We had a swimming pool in our house. And dude, I probably told you about this before, but my fear for sharks was so bad that I would be swimming in the pool and would be scared to close my eyes because when I would close my eyes, I would think of sharks.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
You know, it was bad for me. So I've always had this weird fear of sharks. It got so bad sometimes in the swimming pool because, you know, when we'd be swimming, I'd run in the house and jump in the shower to rinse the chlorine off. And there would be times that, I swear, I know this is strange. It's very strange, and that's what I'm talking about. I would go in from swimming, get in the shower to wash the chlorine off, and close my eyes in the shower and still be thinking about sharks because I'm just coming fresh from water to another body of water, even though it's water streaming as a shower, you know. Right. But I was still in there thinking about sharks. It was very strange, dude. Yeah. But my whole point in this is when we went to the float tank, I had to face that fear.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Oh, dude. That was a good way to overcome that fear, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, wow.
Because literally, anytime I get in a body of water, it's still like that to this day. I don't know that I've overcame that fear. I would like to say that I've faced that fear better than ever because of the float tank. Because when you're just sitting there floating in complete darkness, I mean, dude, we could be out in 80-degree weather when the sun is bright as it's ever going to be, and I close my eyes in a large swimming pool and I think of a shark. That's, you know, so then to all of us, I mean, to think of sharks and you're in that good of a setting, then to go into a pitch black setting where you're floating in water. I mean, it was tough, dude. I'm not even going to shit you.
I'd never thought about that.
But it was nice. It was a good meditation session. But it was strange because for the first 15 minutes, it was tough for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Dude, I can totally understand and relate because, I mean, there are people, this goes into my whole theory about influencing and influencers, but, you know, there are a lot of people that talk about video games and movies and music, and I used to be a big defender of, you know, these things cannot influence someone to do something. And, you know, I think there's a fine line there because we know that it influences mindsets, just like you referenced the shark and Jaws and how it had an influence on the way that you felt about sharks. There was a movie, and I'm pretty sure it was one of the Porky's movies. And I remember getting exposed to a scene. I don't think I watched the whole movie. I don't know if I walked in the room on this scene, but there's a scene where a snake comes up out of the toilet.
Oh.
And
that's tough.
Oh, dude. I mean, and it's not like it's a rational fear, like I'm sitting on the toilet all the time and have that thought, but it'll creep in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It'll just creep up. And then it manifests, it had in the past, and it hasn't in a while, but just to show you what kind of influence it had on my mindset, it would manifest into other animals. Because in real life, there have been animals that have gotten into sewage lines and come up through the toilet.
Wow, that is so strange.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Anyway, yeah, just to let you know, I can totally relate to what you're saying.
I can bounce off of that, because with the movie Arachnophobia, they had the spiders come up in the toilet.
Oh.
And there was a while where I wouldn't get on the toilet until I opened the lid and would check the toilet for freaking spiders.
Right.
But that's because of that movie.
Right.
The power of influence.
Dude, it's huge.
It's huge.
It's
man.
huge.
Huge.
And you can't convince me that, there's government-funded think tanks out there that put a lot of effort into studying minds and figuring out how to influence things. And you can't tell me that they're not aware of the type of influence that media has and the type of influence that corporations push.
The new shooting commercial. Come on.
Oh,
that was pretty,
gosh.
dude. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
That was. Let me say this, and then we'll get right back to that. I read a meme that said the government spends billions of dollars a year on mind control.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I don't know how true that is, but we know that they spend millions of dollars a year on these things.
Oh, governments have existed for so long, and they've learned from every past government. When you think about an institution, you think about people. And people can have influence on other people around them, and they can write books and publish papers, and sometimes that passes the tests of time and can have an influence in the future. I'd like to think that the music you're doing is going to have an influence forever. Positive influence. But with these institutions that exist for a long time, they just learn. They continue even when other new people come in. It evolves. It evolves faster than humans because it takes very intelligent people to come in, make positive changes, and then they leave, and then other intelligent people come in and make other changes, and they leave. These institutions evolve so fast. So when you have institutions that are built around influence, and they have some of the smartest people available at the time, they learn really fast. And then when you look at things that have happened in the past, like Operation Paperclip, where they brought over scientists and integrated them secretly into the government. And then a lot of those scientists, then mysteriously you have the MK Ultra program pop up. The scientists that were experimenting on the Jews, they had no moral ethical boundaries. That was valuable information to governments because governments are bound by laws and public reaction to the way that they test and treat people. So for governments to be able to pull those scientists in and have all that knowledge that they would never be able to have otherwise because they can't do those experiments here, So imagine all of the secret knowledge that came over just from the scientists that had no legal boundaries on the way that they could experiment on people and see what the results of those are. And those scientists integrated into our government.
Right.
So all of that knowledge came over. Imagine all of the knowledge that they gained from MK Ultra, which was a bigger program and a program called Project Monarch. But imagine all of that data. The only reason we even know about MK Ultra is because they forgot to destroy like 10 or 15% of the documents, and they were found in an old warehouse somewhere one time. It's the only reason we know it ever even existed.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Not cool information, but I'm glad I know that now.
Yeah. So just imagine. There's a really good documentary by one of my favorite content producers on YouTube called Truth Stream Media. They actually made a 4-hour documentary on MK Ultra, and
Did they?
Yeah.
Is that the one that I was asking you? Had you seen yet?
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
You sent
it's called
the link.
The Minds of Men, and
Nice.
it's a beautiful documentary, and it covers a whole lot. They don't bring up some stuff I wish they would have. Like they didn't mention that Ted Kaczynski was part of MK Ultra, which
That's
I think
crazy.
would have been really good information to have. But I understand you're limited and
Right.
and you have an idea of things that you want to cover. But it's a beautiful documentary. It's really, really good.
We'll put the link in the description.
Yes.
They have good content, dude.
Oh, they're so good.
And the lady is comforting to listen to.
Yes.
She just has a comforting voice.
Yes.
She's comforting.
Yeah.
And she's full of good information.
Yeah. So it's very good information. You know, I feel like I don't want to harp on the same topics, but I feel like I can't stress how important it is enough for people to get information in other places. And to do that, you have to have the desire to want different information.
Right.
You know, and I think the way that really helped me find that desire within myself was to realize how much information is controlled and manipulated, not just in our country, but all over the world. You know, you have 5 or 6 mega corporations that control all of the mainstream news. You have the CIA, which integrated into the news media back in the 50s, and it didn't come out to the 70s. You can get on YouTube and watch the church committee hearings where they were questioning the CIA. Of course, there's no official documentation that uses the wording Operation Mockingbird, but that's kind of what it's been dubbed by people that, you know, have researched this topic and figured all this stuff out. And now you have CIA agents and former CIA agents that are basically just talking heads on the news media now. They're not even trying to, at least before they were trying to hide it. And now it's just blatantly out in the open, you know, and anyway, just seeing how much the media is controlled and manipulated is what kind of fueled me to want to find information through other sources. And not that those sources can't be controlled and manipulated too. Don't take information from one source, whether it's our podcast or an alternative media outlet.
You have to read between the lines.
Yes, you absolutely do.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I think would be a good clip to go along with this topic, and we should put the link in the description, is if you can remember the video that you showed me where it has all those supposed, you know, all these small town news anchors,
yes,
these news stations, but they're all reading off the same damn script, dude.
Yes.
That was freaky. If you don't realize how controlled mainstream news media is, just check out the description and watch this clip that we put in there. It'll blow your mind.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Dude, it's crazy. Do you remember what clip that is?
There's actually a newer clip, and I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but there were multiple clips that were floating around that had, in fact, Conan, the talk show host, put together a series of clips that he showed on his late night, which I thought, wow, I can't believe they're actually showing this on television. But that was one of the clips that I shared with you before. Mm-hmm. And then there was another one, I think, that was put together by somebody at home. But now there's an even longer clip that combines the Conan clip with the clip that I showed you and even adds newer stuff on it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
So I don't think I've showed you that one.
Maybe we can throw that one in.
Yeah, that's the one that I personally think has the most effect when you're trying to.
Well, yeah, if it's got more, for sure. For sure.
I mean,
because that was powerful. I mean, I was already aware of that fact, but I was like, damn, like it made me more aware, if anything. You know? Right. Let me retract that statement. I wasn't aware of the fact that these news were reading script for script. I'm just saying I was aware that shit wasn't right with the news. You know what I'm saying? But that was powerful.
It is crazy. Because you would think when you're watching a local news station that you're watching somebody that's part of the community and they're reporting on local news that, you know, is specific to your area. But then when you realize that might only be 5 minutes of an hour-long newscast and they're just reading off a teleprompter that the same thing the rest of it gets everyone on the same page. And, you know,
controlling the narrative completely down to a script,
down to the script
that they're sending to news clips in all around. Like, did I just hear Sam Tripoli say, don't quote me, I'm just pulling shit off my brain. Yeah. I was listening to, I love Tripoli.
I love Sam.
He's grown on me a lot lately, for sure. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday or the day before working. And did I hear him say that Disney bought Fox?
Yeah.
Wow.
Disney bought Fox because it was 6 mega corporations.
Now it's down to 5. That's great. That's great that you knew what I was talking about. Yes. Because when you was just mentioned corporations earlier, that's what made me think of that clip. But I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's all good, man. So
you know, Eddie Bravo and Sam Tripoli was just on Alex Jones twice, right?
I didn't know twice, but I watched that video that you linked me the other day.
Nice,
The hour
yeah.
long, hour and 19 minutes, I think. Yeah.
On there twice. They were on there clowning, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
It seemed like they were just like
Yeah.
nonstop laughing gas. It was fun. They had a good time.
And Alex is funny. I think
He's
he could
so
be a
funny.
stand-up if he wanted to,
Dude.
you know. But of course, Eddie Bravo and Sam Tripoli do stand-up as well.
He could be one of the best stand-up ever.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
Right.
He is funny as hell.
Right.
He's super funny. He might even have been funnier than them two.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
He's so funny,
he's
especially
so
at the
funny,
beginning
dude.
when he was like, I don't know. It was so funny.
His voices, and they knew it too. I think Dave was even telling him like, dude, you should be a comedian. Like, you need to do voiceovers.
Yeah,
he's funny.
I think Rogan told him that on episode 1255 too, that he should come to one of Rogan's comedy shows and open for him.
Yeah,
I don't know. Alex Jones gets a lot of heat for multiple reasons, and I don't disagree with all of it. But I will tell you this: he's been doing this for a long. He's been looking into alternative information for a long time, and whether you agree with him on everything or not, there's a lot of stuff that he puts out there that's good information.
Right.
I think that he doesn't do a really good job all the time
at
separating speculation from fact, but he has such a good recall,
dude,
of information. Like
it's insane.
Yeah, if you watch episode 1255 of Rogan's podcast, dude, the amount of information he can pull out of his brain from the last 30 years of him doing this research, it's ridiculous.
That's why he's at the top of that platform, because he's great. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says either. I don't expect anyone to agree with everything anyone says. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you hit the nail. He's not good at maybe separating the two, but damn, he's full of information. I feel like I'm gonna listen when he's speaking. That's my whole point.
Right.
You know?
I'm the same way as well. And I feel like once you get into the habit of seeking out alternative information, it's a lot easier to expect or accept speculation, because once you realize how much stuff is true and fact that sounds like fiction, you know what I mean? There's so much information out there that if you just read it and you didn't realize that it was real, you would think somebody was making it up. Once you realize how much of that information exists, it's a lot easier to entertain a speculative idea, because you realize how much crazy stuff out there that shouldn't exist exists. You know what I mean?
I can entertain about anything.
Yeah. Well, I think it was, I don't know who said the quote, so I don't want to, I'm butchering the quote, but the idea is, an intelligent mind can entertain any idea without accepting it as fact, And so I think to have an open mind, you have to take in as much information as you can and try to separate what could be factual and what could be speculative, but don't automatically
based on your own research, though.
Yeah, based on your own research, but don't automatically just dismiss all speculation, because I'll tell you what, reality is so strange that once the truth comes out, if you haven't speculated about that possibility before, it's going to smack you in the face.
It's going to, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that's very, very true.
Yeah. So being able to speculate, at least entertain an idea for a short amount of time, at least won't make that idea so foreign if it comes out as the truth.
I was listening to a Rogan podcast with Eddie Bravo a few days ago, and they kind of got into it because Eddie was questioning. Basically, his whole point was he questions everything that the government says, and I don't blame him for saying that.
Right.
Well, what kind of threw me off is the other guests on the episode, I don't remember who it was, and Rogan were both getting frustrated, and Rogan even said, I'm getting frustrated. This is frustrating me that Eddie Bravo was questioning the subject they was talking about, and I can't 100% remember what the subject was. But Eddie's like, why are you getting frustrated? All I'm doing is just questioning everything the government says.
Right.
And then Rogan was like, he's like, that's because you question shit that's nonsense. Like, you question, like, flat earth. Like, that's nonsense. It just made me mad. Like, even though I don't believe in flat earth, I don't disbelieve in it. It was just amazing to me that Rogan just wrote it off to his face and said, that's just nonsense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, how are you sure of that, though?
Right.
Like, reality is very strange. And let me just make a point. I don't believe in round earth. I don't believe in flat earth. I haven't done enough research to make an educated guess on that. The way I was raised was to believe the earth is round. And I guess that's where I lean toward right now, because that's the only information I know. it hurt my feelings that Rogan called it nonsense to his face. That he just was so sure.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Well, especially from a guy that started
right.
with an anti-mainstream
right.
podcast that
It
even
was-
had a show
it was
on the
weird.
Sci-Fi Channel that says Joe Rogan questions everything.
Weird, bro. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
It is weird.
Just like Alex Jones on the episode that we was just talking about with Sam Tripoli and Eddie Bravo. Alex was like, so what's up with Joe? You know, like, and to Eddie Bravo, and Eddie Bravo was like, you know, it was
He's got
just
his
like,
reasons or something
he
like
has
that.
his yeah, it was strange.
Well, how he treated Dan Aykroyd.
Dude, that
made me like, honestly, I said to you, I don't know if I want to listen to Joe anymore.
I'm not gonna lie, that was really strange.
Yeah.
It was just really rude. It almost seemed like he had a grudge with him
Right.
before he come in or something.
Right.
It was really weird. It almost was uncomfortable.
It made me uncomfortable.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
So how do you think Dan Aykroyd felt?
right.
He did a good job though.
Right.
As far as
He did a really good job.
As far as not succumbing to the uncomfortability
Yes.
of the situation.
Right.
But yeah, it was an uncomfortable episode. But I want to say I got halfway through it or more.
Right. I mean, I can take in negative information. Like if somebody's telling me of something that's fact, if it makes me sad, like it doesn't make me not want to have that information, you know? So it's not that negative information when it's factual, it's not like I shun it, but I don't want unnecessary negativity.
Right.
And I felt like Rogan was
Yeah.
being completely unnecessarily negative,
Yeah.
you know?
Just weird rebuttals.
Yeah.
You know, they were just weird shit, you know.
Yeah.
He was saying stuff that almost felt like purposefully to make him uncomfortable. Like for the car situation, when they were talking about the cars.
Dan Aykroyd always complimented what he liked in cars and talked about how he understood how he could appreciate that about cars. But then when Dan Aykroyd would talk about the kind of cars that he liked, Rogan would be like, yeah, I just don't find that attractive.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was just weird. There was a lot of
Yeah.
little subtle weird things.
Yeah.
And that might have been, I might have just finished up my whatever I was doing to be able to take time to listen to podcasts. And maybe I just was done and so I turned it off. Or maybe that was why I turned it off because it was uncomfortable. I can't remember. But I do remember when you pulled me aside and mentioned that it was a little strange to you. I completely knew exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, my buddy Mike listened to that episode as well, and he said the same thing. He finished it before I did, and he said, "You know how you said that you were frustrated at Rogan and the way that he was treating Dan Aykroyd." And this was just like the first 15 or 20 minutes that I listened to on my way to work, and I got to work and told him that I was listening to the Dan Aykroyd podcast, and Rogan was frustrating me just by the way he was talking to Dan Aykroyd. He said, I finished the podcast and it never stops.
Yeah.
And he was right, dude, all the way through the podcast.
It's really
Not that there
weird.
wasn't ever a time where Rogan was nice to him. I mean, they had a polite conversation a lot of the time, but he was unnecessarily negative with things that maybe he personally disagreed with. And he's not like that with all of his guests. You know,
He's not like that with all of his guests. And it seems like the more episodes that come out, the more he's set in his ways. Like he used to question everything. Now it seems like a lot of the stuff, it seems like someone could be controlling the narrative.
Right. Well,
I don't know.
I'm not, the problem is if you're critical of something, someone thinks you're automatically anti something, so I'm
True.
not anti-America. I'm not anti much of anything other than violence and war and aggression,
Right.
but Rogan used to question the government pretty heavily. And
Right.
he used to have, like a picture of Elvis and a picture of Jimi Hendrix and some alien heads and, stuff behind him. Have you noticed what's behind him now in his podcast?
I
For
haven't.
probably like the last year?
Dude, what is
the
it?
American flag.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
And I'm not saying
No, I mean,
you
it's
can't
not,
be proud of where you live. I'm not.
Right,
That's
right,
not what I'm
right.
saying. What I'm saying is, with everything else that goes along with the way that I feel like Rogan has changed,
There's been a weird transformation.
there has been. And
Absolutely.
it just seems weird to me that he. I'm not saying he was ever anti-American, but he was very vocally questioning of things that the government used to do that he doesn't really bring up much now. And now he's got an American flag behind him. And now he also has CIA agents on his show frequently. And
That was weird.
with everything else that goes along with it, with the CIA being involved in the mainstream media, and I don't know.
But me and you, we question everything. So we might,
Yeah.
we're just,
I'm speculating.
we're completely speculating.
Yeah.
And let me also backtrack a little bit too, because we haven't just been bashing Rogan. We've also said, we've also had these conversations before our podcast. There's certain things that we don't necessarily want to talk about
right.
as of right now, just
Right.
for the simple fact we don't want to get speculation mixed up with fact. Maybe we've had this conversation and I'm just wanting to make people aware that we're not just bashing Rogan. We've come to the conclusion that he might just be picking and choosing what he talks about a little more carefully for
Right.
certain reasons.
Right.
So that's a possibility too. It seems like there could be a controlling of the narrative, but
Right.
I could be wrong about that too. I question everything.
Yeah.
But I still listen to Rogan. Like I'm not I'm not just downplaying Rogan.
I mean, just looking back at the last 15 minutes, it probably seems like I'm anti-Rogan.
Yeah,
I'm not anti-Rogan.
I'm not anti-Rogan at all. I still listen to
has
Rogan.
had such a huge influence on the way that I think and view
Right.
the world. I've listened to probably 4,000 hours of Rogan do interviews. And I mean, I credit his podcast with a big way of expanding my mind and questioning things. Like I'm not doing it out of malice or negative intent. I'm doing it out of almost an emotional
There's an emotional attachment.
to the show because I feel like it's had such an influence on me, whereas now it feels more the same.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Sometimes.
yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Like I said, there's still a lot of good information on Rogan.
Yes.
And I still appreciate what he's doing.
I mean, the long format, uninterrupted conversation with guests that you can't get on regular television. The whole sound bites, put 4 people's head up on the screen on a newscast and have them argue for 5 minutes where nobody even gets to make a good point, and you would have to have a long form conversation to even get the American public to even try to understand the basics of what they're trying to say, let alone the intricate details of whatever the discussion are. You can't
Right.
get that in 5 minutes,
No.
and that's not what they're going for. That's not
Absolutely.
the purpose. When you can have a conversation, a long form conversation with someone, you can pick their brain, you can get detailed information, you can, there's a lot of things that need long form discussion to even be able to grasp the basic concepts of. And so, like, to be able to listen to people have those discussions has changed what I feel
for sure.
is a good conversation, but it's also allowed me to have access to information that I would never have before. When you don't have access to the details of everyone's life, you can only speculate.
Right.
So to me, there just seems to be a lot more pushing of very mainstream ideas and a lot less questioning of mainstream ideas. And it could be organic. It could be, like we've said before, it could be he's just had access to a lot of people that he respects.
Exactly.
And they've been able to change his mind on things.
Right.
Those people could have done that organically. Those people could have been planted to try to change the conversation and change his influence.
Because he
We
does
don't
have
know.
a lot of conversations.
He has a lot of conversations.
And every conversation you have with an intelligent person is going, if you're paying
It
attention,
should.
it should influence you.
You shouldn't just change your mind about something because someone gives you information, because you don't know what their intent behind giving you that information is. Their intent could be to change your mind because they want to influence you to say something else. But you should take in that information.
You should pay attention, right? You should
do with it what you want.
Exactly. Read between the lines.
Yeah. And it would be hard. I'm not trying to pass judgment. It's easy for us right now to have almost uninterrupted conversations about any topic, because we're not going to get negative feedback because we don't have 100,000 people picking apart every single thing we say and then going and doing research and then putting links in the bottom. Dude, you were wrong about this. There's an article, like we can kind of speak freely without that feedback where it just, is constant.
Right.
But the internet can be a mean group of people.
Oh, it can be so mean.
Especially when people are anonymous.
Dude, it can be so mean.
Right.
And especially when you're on a platform where you're reaching that many people.
Right.
And then you have the government paying thousands of people to get online to be mean and, to get on there and pretend they're a real person and comment shit. That shit's happening.
Yeah.
Don't think it's not.
Governments and mega corporations. Corporations have been caught doing it. You know, I mean, that's not even a theory. That's factual. Corporations have been caught trying to look like a grassroots movement online to squash criticism of a product or an idea and look like an organic movement that's forming online, because there's goes back to what I was saying earlier with these big think tanks in the government. A lot of people are influenced by what they think the majority thinks. So they don't want to be the one that thinks something different and then is wrong. You know, when you just think what you're told to think, you don't even have to be responsible for your thoughts.
Right.
You can pawn that off on somebody else. You can say, well, that's what I was told by this person that, you know, is an authority figure of this topic. Like, why should I not trust him? But it's almost intellectually lazy to just always trust authority.
Right.
Because you don't even have to take responsibility for your own ideas. You know,
I love that you said intellectually lazy.
Yeah.
And I had to interrupt you because I'm going to say that's a great way to say it. And I'm just going to say another way to say it. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
You said the proper thing, but it's also just stupid. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to say
No, dude, it's conversation. It's hard. And I know it's hard and it's frustrating. And there is a risk involved with coming up with your own ideas, especially if you're vocal in those ideas or if you're in groups of people that don't get information from alternative sources and they're just having the conversation that the mainstream is forcing on the public, which a lot of people are still in those groups, and you don't want to be the outcast of your group.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of peer pressure to think like everybody else does. So when you multiply that online by millions, what appears to be the majority, it has an influence on people that are easily swayed to not speak out when they think everybody else thinks opposite of what they do.
Right.
So governments and think tanks, they know this. You know, they know the influence that the hive mind, and I'm doing air quotes, the hive mind online can have on the way that other people think or the way they speak online about topics. So there is a lot of risk for some people to just seek out alternative information just because they don't want to be the one in their group that's not participating in the mainstream conversation the same way everyone else is. It's a lot easier. It is easy. It's easy to sit down with a group of people and they're arguing about Democrats and Republicans, and you just jump in and you defend one side, or you pick a side and you get into the argument and you just fit right in. And when it's people you disagree with, at least you just fit into the conversation.
Right.
But when you see outside of that narrative and you see an alternative way of thinking, then both sides attack you. Instead of just getting attacked by one side and being on the other team,
right.
Now it's like running out onto a football field and both teams try to tackle you, so.
Dude, when you say, like, I'm the guy that's at the table and people might be arguing about politics, and I'm just thinking, dude, you guys are just stupid. These guys are golfing together. Like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
Like, they got the same lawyers. Like, it's so damn ridiculous to me. I mean, I'm sorry, because most people lean toward one side or the other, but I just think it's all nonsense. I'm not saying either side doesn't have good ideas and bad ideas. I'm just saying the idea of picking a side in general is stupid.
Yeah, well, the thing is people just want to fit in. I understand to an extent. I'm not excusing, I guess, but it's just easy. Like, you have news media outlets that are there to feed you the information from the team that you choose. It gives you the ammunition against the other team. The bad part about picking a side is you don't want to admit the faults because it gives the other side ammunition. So when you pick a side, you're not just picking the good ideas from your side or that side. You're picking all of the ideas and just taking them all in and then trying to attack the bad ideas on the other side while not acknowledging most of the time the bad ideas of your own side. So it's a weird, what I feel like is a manipulation technique to divide the populace, and conquer. Because when people are divided,
and the more labels they can have on people,
yes,
the more different religions, the more politics, the more genders, the more of these labels that are out there, the more they divide and conquer us. I think it's all nonsense, and I'm not calling genders nonsense or religious nonsense. I'm just The more we can be divided, the better it is for them. That's the way I should word that.
Right. There should be no labels. There should just be ideas. You should
Absolutely.
discuss every idea individually.
And come up with the best solution.
Yeah, you shouldn't just lump a whole bunch of ideas, attach a label to it, and then call yourself that label.
Right.
You know, like every idea should stand on its own. You shouldn't have to inherit a bunch of bad ideas because you choose to apply a label to yourself. Like, that's just my opinion. Drop the labels.
Drop the labels. And as far as this gender thing, to me, we're just all human beings. As long as you're a loving, kind, caring human being, it doesn't matter how you identify yourself. To me, it doesn't matter what you prefer your sexual partner to be. None of that matters. You're a human being at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And as long as you're a decent human being, then you're good in my book.
Right.
The labels is just ridiculous to me. That just causes more fights. Oh, you called him gay. Oh, you can't say that word because they're transgender. To me, it's just all bullshit. Like, we're all human beings, love each other.
Right.
Spread love, spread peace, stop the bullshit. Like,
Right.
period. When it comes back to this has been happening a few times to me lately, and it's, oh God, it's just so funny because when you're at the level of Joe Rogan's platform, you know, then you do have it's more likely that there could be a paid agent in the comments of his you know, on his platforms, on his message boards.
Oh, totally.
It's more likely for that.
Yeah.
Now, when you're just little old me, there's no paid agent going to be on my comments. But this is when it goes back to the Matrix movie, Agent Smith.
Yeah.
We are programmed. They program us to have an Agent Smith in every one of us.
Right.
There's an Agent Smith, a large percentage of Americans, and they don't even realize it. And that Agent Smith doesn't pop up until something questions their reality. So anytime I post something that questions a narrative, whether it's a religious topic, which I usually just try to promote peace and love. Every now and then I have a strong thought and I want to get it off my chest, and that's how I communicate. I don't call people on the phone. I don't send text messages. I'm not vocal unless I'm talking to family. I'm in my own little world and I don't communicate with people. That's just what it is. This is how it is. So if I want to communicate, I express my feelings through Facebook. And my whole point is, anytime that lately, especially if I'm posting something that just questions the mainstream narrative, I get an agent, but it's just the Agent Smith. It's not a paid agent.
Right.
It's a human being that I personally know.
Right.
But that agent pops out in them and they start defending the system blindly.
Right.
And it's, oh God, it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, they've done a really good job programming you.
Right.
A certain amount of time ago, I was programmed just like that.
Right.
It's just, you know,
Me
you
too.
wake up to the bigger picture and then you realize,
Yeah.
you know, I've got over 3 years clean. But for a while, people would be like, when I first started this recovery thing, and I was going to meetings because they was forced, I had to from probation. I think meetings are neat. I think there's a lot of good ideas at meetings. I think the gathering of minds is neat. Also, there could be a lot of bad things. I think you go to certain meetings and people are treating this meeting like a church and preaching the word of whatever God they believe in. And I think that's bullshit and it's nonsense. There can be a lot of good at meetings and there can be a lot of bullshit.
I went to a few of those meetings with you, and what I really felt at that point in time, 3 years ago, when I was going with you when you first got out, what was really surprising with me is just the honesty that people had.
Exactly.
You know, there were a lot of people there that were being honest about the way they felt and things that they had done, and you don't see that a lot. Like, so many people have a facade or are afraid to speak the truth because they're afraid of what people think. And, you know, a lot of people that are in these meetings, I feel like a lot of them have hit the rock bottom. So they're not afraid to say what they really think or feel because, and I'm not passing judgment, and I mean this in a positive way overall, but it's almost like training to be a warrior, right? Like when you say things that are truthful to people that might not be seeking the truth, a lot of people would rather have comforting lies than uncomfortable truths. Like, people want something that makes them feel good. They'd rather have a lie that makes them feel good than a truth that hurts their feelings. You know, so as a truth warrior, for lack of a better term, I think a lot of people that are in these meetings have have burned a lot of bridges. They've had to face a lot of truths that a lot of other people are living comfortable lives. They're not seeking the truth. You know, for a lot of people that are in the position to go to these meetings, they're forced to see the truth. They're forced to face the truth. It was such a neat feeling to just go and see a group of people so willing to face truth.
I made a lot of good
truth.
friends from these meetings. I went to a lot of good meetings. Definitely a lot of good meetings.
Yeah. It was really neat to me because I was seeking truth at the time, just in all aspects. I meet up with a lot of people virtually that I feel like are searching for truth, but it's rare to get physically near so many people at the same time in a large room that are so honest.
Something else that I think is neat about the way that the 12-step program is written out is that it's based upon having a spiritual awakening. Once you get to this 12th step, and I might be butchering it a little bit, but the whole idea of doing all these things in this order is to help bring upon a spiritual awakening. And I think that is a beautiful thing.
Right.
Going to these meetings and doing these things could have played a large part in helping me wake up to the bigger picture.
Sure.
And
I can see that.
I've had these thoughts multiple times.
It helped me, you know, to just go and see so many honest people speak in ways that you just don't find other places. I don't know how to explain it. It was a very powerful thing for me to go to those with you, and I'm glad to have been able to share those experiences with you and just to go and be a part of the whole thing for a while, because it had an effect. You know, it had an effect on me for sure.
Dude, so what's up with the vaping air quote epidemic?
Right.
Come on, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, you know, apparently, I mean, and I don't know if people know, but I've been vaping for maybe 12 years, 10 to 12 years. I mean, I'd have to go back. I could probably find my first e-cigarette receipt in my email somewhere, but my first one I bought from some guy that was making them in his garage. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So they weren't really even being mass produced. It was kind of a new idea. There was very few there was no vaping shops. Like, you had to buy everything online. What I did is I just kind of learned how to make my own flavorings. So I would buy liquid nicotine, the other ingredients that go in, which is vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol, and whatever flavor you choose, which compared to
1,000 chemicals
1,000
in cigarettes.
plus chemicals in a cigarette.
And not only 1,000 plus chemicals, but 1,000 chemicals that a lot of them are poison.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff.
And there's some studies that show it's not necessarily the nicotine that's bad for you. Actually, nicotine can be a cognitive enhancer. They've showed that it helps prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. It does have some cardiovascular effects, so it can have some effects eventually on your heart through long-term use. But I wouldn't say it's more dangerous than fast food, you know. And by any stretch of the imagination, it shouldn't even be compared. Like,
fast food's one of the worst things.
Yeah, you know. So nicotine by itself, scientists actually have a hard time getting mice and rats. You know, they do a lot of testing on addictive chemicals to see how addicted rats and mice can get. To give them an idea of how addictive that chemical is. Basically, they put them through a maze where they can go through the maze. One side will have food, the other side will have whatever chemical they're trying to see how addictive it is. And if the rat or mouse chooses to get the chemical over the food until it dies, which they do with some things like heroin and cocaine, then, you know, I guess they consider that pretty addictive. But they don't do that with nicotine.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't choose nicotine over food.
I use nicotine and coffee as a tool, as a creative tool. You know, and here's what's pretty weird too, is even when I actually quit smoking cigarettes, but like there would be times where I'd be like, man, I just want to sit down and have one cigarette.
Right.
For this creative moment. I had smoked for 20 years. So to be able to sit down and smoke one cigarette and then not smoke. Now, granted, I did have a vape. I was vaping, and I'm still vaping. I know vaping isn't good for me. I know that. But let me say this, too. I ride my bike everywhere, okay? when I quit smoking, I want to say I had probably been vaping for about 6 months at this time. Riding my bike back and forth to work at 4 a.m. in the morning, like a 20-minute bike ride
Right.
there and back. Never once did I run out of breath from riding my bike back and forth to work. There was one day, dude, where I forgot to take my vape to work with me. I was working 12-hour shifts at the time. So I bummed a cigarette off someone at all 4 of our breaks. Maybe it was 3 breaks, but I bummed a cigarette off someone at every break. So smoking those 3 or 4 cigarettes in that one shift, and I got on that bike to ride my bike home, and I'll never forget. That was the day I made up my mind that even if I had that craving for 1 cigarette a month, that I wouldn't do it, because I realized how bad cigarettes were, dude. I mean, I was huffing and puffing from just those few cigarettes that day. It was just a realization that I had never had before. You know, and I smoked thousands of cigarettes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. You know, I've went through periods where I had smoked because I would bum them off people if I was around someone that smoked. I'd went through periods where I would buy cigarettes. I'd went through periods where I'd only buy cigarettes if we were, drinking on the weekends or something, so I went through different phases of smoking.
I remember that.
Yeah. And to me, when I started vaping, I wasn't even in a phase of smoking. So it wasn't that I was trying to quit smoking. I enjoyed the act of smoking. I didn't like the way it made me feel. Okay. So it had gotten to the point to where after smoking, a pack every 2 days or whatever, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have to have that cigarette. I'd cough up stuff. They talk about the smoker's cough you get if you stop smoking cigarettes. Like if you're a pack a day smoker and you stop smoking cigarettes, like when your lungs start to heal, you start to cough all that gunk up from your lungs. So not only are you going through whatever kind of withdrawal symptoms that you are from all the chemicals that are in cigarettes, which I think are what causes
more of an addiction than the nicotine.
More of the addiction than the nicotine.
Right.
But
Exactly.
now your body's also healing. So you have these 2 negative things that you have to battle through. You have to battle through the withdrawal and you have to battle through the sickness, So there's a lot of people that don't want to do that. So they just start smoking again so they don't have to cough in the morning.
Right.
In a weird way, it's almost like an addiction to other drugs, where a lot of what fears I think a lot of people of trying to get clean off some drugs is being sick.
Right. And that's another thing with smoking too, is it's the act of smoking, the hand to mouth, that becomes addictive.
Right.
It becomes part of who you are.
Sure. It becomes an action that you're used to doing. Your body just does it subconsciously.
Yeah. I remember the couple times I quit smoking cigarettes before vape was ever available. I would use suckers because that's still that hand to mouth thing, And
I know people have used toothpicks, popsicle sticks, anything that kind of feeds that body's natural desire to do the hand to mouth,
Why was I 14 years old and had no problem buying cigarettes at the gas station?
Right. Well, they used to sell them in machines, dude. You used to be able to walk up to a machine and put money in and get cigarettes out.
I didn't never have to do that, but I'm just saying, right now, I can walk into the VP and just the other day I walked in, I'm not even gonna tell the story because that's not the point. But when I got up to the counter, the lady was like, "Do you have your ID?" I was like, "I'm not buying anything that requires an ID." It was just really strange.
She was asking for identification, but you weren't buying an age-restricted product.
I hadn't even told her what I wanted yet. I mean, I had just walked up there and she's like, "Do you have your ID?" And I was like, "I don't smoke." She was like, "Are you buying alcohol?" I was like, "I don't need my ID." It was just a weird thing that she asked me that.
That's strange.
No, it didn't get any stranger after that. That was the strange part. We actually had a decent conversation, but it was really weird. But my whole thing is when I was 14 years old, I'm walking into a gas station and buying cigarettes with no problem.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, you used to be able to buy candy cigarettes, dude. Kids would sit around and fake smoke with candy cigarettes. You don't think the tobacco industry
power of influence
created those candies?
Dude, these think tanks we were just talking about.
Right.
Of course they did, dude.
Right.
Now let's get back to while I was bringing this up, perfect time for it. Just like you just said, there supposedly had been 8 deaths that they're linking to vaping. A lot of people are saying it's linked to the THC pens. It has nothing to do with the actual e-cigarettes.
Right.
I was talking to the guy at the vape store a couple nights ago, And I asked him what he thought. I had said, "Have you heard about the 6 deaths?" And he was like, "Well, it's 8 now." He was like, "But they're not even because of e-cigarettes." He was like, "They're because of THC pens." And he was like, "And here's the reason why." Now, mind you, I'm just repeating what I've heard. I don't.
Well, I've read it online with the vitamin.
He said, yeah, he said it was something about they're just adding, I think he said vitamin E to make it look more pure because
Right.
people like the thicker juice. When that mixture is then vaped, the chemical that it releases is what's causing the deaths. But it's just so strange. And I'm not, like I posted something today, I'm not downplaying the death of any human being for any reason. Even if someone did something really shitty and deserves some severe punishment.
Osama bin Laden, possibly.
But possibly. But I'm not celebrating his death.
Right.
He's a fucking human being, dude.
Right.
Like, I'm not happy he died.
Right.
I'm not saying he shouldn't, if he did what he's accused of, I'm not saying he shouldn't be severely punished and in prison for life. And I'm not saying that if he did what he did, that there shouldn't even be the possibility of death for something that severe. But I'm not going to be happy about it.
Right.
It's a human
Exactly.
being.
Exactly.
We're all in this together.
Right.
I don't know what his circumstances caused him to have such a fucked up mentality. I prefer to look at the situation from the perspective of love and try to understand what made him become to this thinking so we can try to figure out what not to do so someone else that doesn't happen to someone else. But my whole thing is, damn, I just got off on a tangent.
No, you were sorry. We do that though.
Yeah, we do that.
We do that.
We're good at doing that.
I'll try to bring it back. Right before I brought up Osama bin Laden, you were talking about you respect all death.
You brought it right back. Okay, dude. So 6 or 8 deaths, and I'm not downplaying that. Whether it's from vaping or whether it's from THC pens or whether it's from. But Randy, how many people have died from cigarettes just since we started this podcast an hour ago?
Has it been an hour?
It's been about an hour.
Holy shit balls.
So what does that mean? About 60?
Yeah.
So there's been about 60 deaths.
1 per minute.
Why isn't anyone talking about that?
Yeah. Been more people die in the last 10 minutes from cigarettes than the last 10 years from vaping.
Yeah. Like, so this false vaping epidemic, it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's manufactured.
It's manufactured. It's government losing big money. If people wasn't aware, Marlboro stepped in and spent and invested 12 or 18, I think it's more like $12.8 billion in Juul last year so they could be part of the board and own a certain percentage. I want to say something I just read said it was for 35%, but I want to say something I read a few months back. It said more like 49%. So I don't know what the percentage was, but I know that they bought in Juul for billions so they could sit on the board and help control the narrative of Juul.
Right.
So is it funny that all of a sudden the CEO of Juul stepping down a few months later?
Right.
Come on, man.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Well, dude, tobacco has had such an influence all over the world. I mean, back when cigarettes, there's one of my favorite documentarians that is very factual. Any of his documentaries are worth looking up. His name's Adam Curtis. He has had multiple.
Was that the MTV guy? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's Adam Curry.
Okay.
This guy's from the BBC. He used to produce documentaries for the BBC, and you can find most of his stuff online. One of my favorites is The Power of Nightmares. Another one's called The Trap. But there's one of his newer ones is called The Century of Self, where it's all about like
That's
consumerism.
a good one, dude.
And that one, he talks about how the cigarette manufacturers, the tobacco industry, started marketing to women because they felt like this was an untapped market. And they called cigarettes freedom torches and then helped push for women to be able to vote. And they use that as a marketing strategy. Celebrate your new freedom with your freedom torch, dude.
Yeah.
That's how manipulative these mega corporations are.
That was a realization when I seen that.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for a lot of people. Most people are good people, and most people, it's hard for them to put themselves into the mindset of a bad person or a psychopath. It's hard for them to believe that there are people out there that would do things that purposefully harm people for their own gain. But the system that's set up rewards those people. We don't have a justice system. We have a legal system that helps the people that can afford the best lawyers. The laws, a lot of times, that are created for these corporations are written by these corporations and handed off to senators and congressmen that don't even read them. You know, there's the layer of manipulation that happens factually is so deep. Like, this isn't theoretical. I'm not speculating. This is fact. So I think it's hard for a lot of people to put themselves or try to understand that the system that's created in a lot of ways rewards people that takes advantage of other people. So
Dude, it totally does.
Yeah.
This is something that people might be able to understand, and I shouldn't know about it. It came up as some recommended things on my YouTube, so I checked it out. But that rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine that's got in trouble and got in a huge legal case right now, is possibly facing life in prison, who now snitched on his whole organization. I know a lot of people are following this because the whole world is. Well, a lot of the mainstream world is, you know what I'm saying, as following this. So what my whole point in it is, this goes right along with it, because he was ordering hits on people and ordering all these things, and is now on stand snitching on the same people that he ordered to commit these hits, and he's going to get out of trouble for snitching on the same people that he ordered to do these things. I'm stumbled by this because it is amazing to me that this is how our system is set up.
Yep.
It's crazy, dude.
That's exactly probably what Epstein was about to do too.
Dude,
there were too many powerful people involved, and he had so much information on people, he could have completely protected himself and brought a lot of people down.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, and they knew that, so they wanted to get rid of him. I mean, that's speculation, just so you know. I'm completely speculating there. Of course, the official mainstream story, I'm sure, is 100% true.
Yeah.
Oh. So no, just so, because we go off on tangents, just to wrap up maybe the vape topic real quick. The smoker's cough that a lot of people go through when they quit smoking cigarettes in the morning, they have this real bad cough. You get that same cough if you switch directly from cigarettes to vaping. And a lot of people might see that as a negative, but it's actually positive because that's your lungs healing.
Right.
You know, so it's not that your lungs heal basically at the same rate whether you stop smoking or switch to vaping. Like, they're healing. So you don't get that morning wheeze from vaping. You know, I vape.
You don't.
No, you don't.
No.
I haven't smoked a cigarette in years, but I could smoke one cigarette if I went out and had a couple drinks and smoked a cigarette. I would wheeze the next morning. There have been times where I've hit a vape all day, like sitting in front of my computer working on something, and just constant hand to mouth, you know, not every
Dude, that's
second.
how I am every day.
I don't feel a negative effect from that. Not to say that there aren't negative effects from, because that to me is probably overdoing it all day. But it's an example of how one cigarette versus one whole day of vaping has a more immediate negative effect that I can feel in my own body, you know.
Exactly. I'm always home, so I have a lot more time to be able to vape. I'm not working 8 or 10 hours at a job where I can only step out and vape one time during my work. So I can sit at home and vape all day long.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but what I'm saying is it is good that I'm at home, but it's not good that I can necessarily vape all day, because I know vaping isn't good for me. But when we're comparing the two,
right.
Well, okay. So my whole point is I'm either sitting at home like working on eBay, or I'm in a creative zone. And either way, I'm pretty much wanting to vape. A little more so if I'm in a creative zone. Then I get into this thing where I'm just probably vaping a little too much. But where I'm going with this is, well, then the next day I get up and ride my bike to the gym. And then I go to the gym and work my ass off. And not one time have I ever been short of breath, dude.
Right.
Not one time.
Nope.
Now, I was short of breath when I was trying to go to the gym while I was still smoking 2 years ago.
Right.
Oh, it was killing me.
Right.
It was hurting.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason why I wanted to quit.
Right.
And I was noticing that it was staining my teeth, and it was really bothering me. But I was also affected by it at the gym, and it was starting to become a reality. Like, this is hurting me.
Right.
I was becoming more conscious of things. Like, I had spent that time in jail where I hadn't smoked a cigarette, maybe other than a couple, rollies or something that we had in there, just a couple puffs or something a couple times. But I hadn't smoked cigarettes in a year. And then I get out, and first thing I do is buy a pack of cigarettes. Like, so I hadn't matured mentally to where I thought I did. To get out and buy cigarettes was a very, very bad decision.
Right.
But what I'm saying is it didn't take many months after being out for me to realize I didn't need to be smoking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think I had quit within 5-6 months after being out. You
Right.
know?
Right.
I go to the gym now and I'm just fine. When I ride my bike, I don't just dilly-dally. So that's part of my workout. That's where I get my cardio, is riding to the gym and then riding back. And I push myself on my bike. I try to outdo myself. Like, I rode this fast yesterday. Well, I want to ride this fast today. Like, I try to outdo myself. What I'm saying is, dude, I don't have an issue.
Right.
And I vape all day, every day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
I'm not saying that there's not, I can't take it down to a cellular level and say, well, I know what it's doing to my blood, or I know, because I don't. But I know that it's not doing this to my breathing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can
Right.
tell you that right now.
I know that it's not staining teeth. I know that it doesn't make me stink. I know that it doesn't make me short of breath. I know that it doesn't make me cough in the morning. I know that I don't have to
point.
get up and immediately do it as soon as I wake up. There's people that
Right.
there are people that'll wake up in the middle of the night to smoke because they're
I don't take my vape when I leave the house.
right.
I would have to smoke. And now when I was working shifts for other people, I was taking my vape to work because I'd vape on lunch break and stuff. But if I go to the island, if I go to the gym, dude, even when I go take my hour walks, I don't take my vape.
Right.
Come on. If I was still smoking cigarettes, I would have smoked 2 cigarettes on that hour walk.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like for sure, 100%.
Right.
It's a little easier to control, hence the fact there's not 1,000 addictive chemicals in it.
Right.
Like right now, we've been doing this podcast for over an hour and neither one of us have vaped one time.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of that maybe has to do with we just don't want to be rude and vape in the microphone, but we could just take a pause and cut it out because this isn't live.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I mean, are you
Right.
kidding? Like,
Right.
yeah, it's a much more controllable. And I'm not pushing vape to kids. Don't do either. Don't vape, don't smoke. It's just, you make that decision. Do your research and decide. If you was having to pick one, I would hope that you would pick vape over the cigarettes. though.
Absolutely. Dude, absolutely. You know, and the whole thing, the controlled narrative, obviously, is that they're marketing to children because of flavors, you know, which I'm not saying anything
candy
should
cigarettes?
be banned. I'm not saying anything should be banned because of flavoring. But if you don't want to sound like a hypocrite, why haven't you banned flavored alcohol?
Exactly.
Period.
What?
End of story. It's not about marketing to
If you're
children
worried
because
about-
of flavors.
If you're worried about people's health, why are you even selling alcohol?
Yeah. If you're worried about people's health, why are you letting parents buy McDonald's for their kids every day?
Exactly.
And I'm not trying
Not
to
only-
talk down about anybody. I'm just saying that has a negative health
with
effect.
toys in them.
It's not about health.
You're promoting toys with your food. Mom, take me here because I want to collect that toy.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's frustrating.
they're not worried about health, Randy.
No.
They're not worried about health.
No.
If they were worried about health, let's be real. If they were worried about health, they would be saying, well, we've seen thousands of people be successful quitting smoking cigarettes by vaping. So why don't you guys try to quit cigarettes and try to pick up vaping? That's a way smarter thing than telling people to stop vaping and go back to cigarettes.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right.
Like, wake up.
Yeah.
I hate even saying that, but dude, I don't even raise my voice. I don't even talk a lot because I'm by myself 95% of the time. So, like when I'm editing these podcasts, I catch myself getting manic about topics, and I'm like, "Damn, Ron, like
You're just passionate, dude.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's-
passionate. Right.
It comes out.
But I'm just saying, like, I'm such a chill person. You're never gonna see me get loud like that.
And we're really comfortable with each other. So I
Right.
think a lot of it is just being in a
Comfortability.
comfortable
Talking about
situation where you know
passionate
somebody's
things.
not going to judge you based on what you may say or think. There's a lot of people that would love to have these conversations, but they're afraid to talk like this in front of people because they're afraid of being judged.
Right.
You know, just the freedom for you to be able to say something to me, and you know that I'm not going to judge you for your idea.
Right.
Like, I respect outside of the box ideas. You know, I have
I
a lot.
encourage it. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. You know, so yeah, I'm the same way. Basically, is I guess is what I'm saying is just a lot of me getting excited and loud. That's not me in real life.
Right.
You know,
right.
so-
Yeah. It's strange.
And I'm not putting on an act. I'm just comfortable and passionate
And
about
passionate,
topics.
Right,
so
right.
you know, there's times that
very
it
true. I like
comes
how you
out.
worded that. That's true. Very true. I just get a little nervous. You know, I'm just soft. I think soft spoken is the proper way to say it.
Sure.
If I'm around people that I don't know, you get me around you or dad, and I get manic about. You know, yeah, it's the comfortability thing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
Yeah.
it is. and about passionate topics.
Yeah. Because we do. We're very passionate people, you know.
Very.
I think I think it comes out in your creativity. You know, I think a lot of people that are creative, that the passion fuels, it gives them the energy to
Sure.
create.
Like,
you know?
yeah, dude, that's what not to cut you off, but that's exactly where I'm at with what I was trying to say earlier. You know, we can instead of me saying soul, we can call it passion. Like, my passion fuels me to the point where I become mentally and physically drained because my body and brain can't keep up with the passion.
I know exactly where you're coming from.
Where I have to cut myself off, like, Ron, go lay down. Dude, I do. It's really almost an everyday thing. That's why I try to cherish a nap when I can take one.
Sure.
Because it helps that. You know, I haven't found a lot of time for naps lately, unfortunately. I've just been trying to catch up on this stuff around the house, and it's been keeping me really, really busy. I did just do a song I'm really proud of, dude.
Yeah. And maybe since we have total editing control, maybe that's what they heard at the beginning of the podcast. Or maybe that's what they'll hear at the end.
Dude.
Part, at least.
Have to.
Yeah.
Have to.
Absolutely. That would be beautiful.
I'm actually planning on publishing that song later this evening after you leave and I get back. Because all I got to do is the intro and the outro, and then listen to it a few times. I spent the last 2 days mixing it, so it's pretty ready, man.
I heard it. It's
dude,
beautiful, brother.
I'm really proud of this one, man. And I tell you,
it's really good.
I'm my own worst critic, you know. The last couple of songs I did, I'm really happy with, man. You know, I tried something different on this one. I tried to write from a different perspective to get information out and still try to make it somewhat pleasurable to listen to. I don't know, man. I just tried something different.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just happy with it.
I am too. It's really good.
Thanks, man.
Dude, it's really good. It just, to me, it just fits right along in with the evolution of the music that you've been creating. You know, because being on the outside looking in, you know, you talked about your spiritual awakening. You know, so much of the songs that you did at the beginning reflects that.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Very
like,
spiritual.
Very spiritual. And not that you're any less spiritual.
Right.
But anyway, this song is a little different from what you've done before, but it's really good.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You did a really good job.
Thanks, man. I do. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I do.
It sounds really good. I don't want to give the idea away or the you know, just in case it's coming at the end, you know, let it catch people by surprise if they haven't heard it yet. So, but anyway, yeah. So the evolution, I guess, I don't know, evolution of music.
You know, the evolution of the type of stuff that I like to listen to. I'm so inspired by a certain artist that I have been inspired by for years and years and years. And I think that this artist helped plant seeds in my mind to awaken. You know, so I just want to put his name out there and tell people that they should listen to Kill a Priest. And, you know, he's made hundreds of songs. You kind of have to pick through and find the gems, but there's so many of them. But I just want to let people know that that's an artist that I'm inspired by when it comes to like a hip hop rap artist, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can only hope to plant seeds in someone's mind to maybe help them
evolve
or, you know, just open up their mind to different
Yes.
possibilities, the idea of different, you know, possibilities. Because he did that with me. I could almost say that it could be from him planting seeds 15 years ago when I first started listening to his music. And I had no idea that these songs I was listening to, he was talking about meditation. Even though he was saying the word meditation,
Right.
it just never clicked.
Right.
But the seeds were being planted.
Right.
So I would be silly to say that he had no part in me starting my meditation practice, you know, leading to that path. I could almost guarantee that he had a part in that, you know. So I think it's very important that I'm very wise, and I think any artist, like I just put a post about this maybe 2 days ago. I said something to the terms of the mental state of our youth is going to remain stagnant until we develop more intelligent trends. And I said, as an artist speaking to fellow artists, this is our job.
Right.
I said, let's elevate the youth, not dumb them down.
Right.
And that's the problem with most mainstream entertainment.
Mindless entertainment.
Yeah, dude. It's just, and that's the problem with it is, damn it, so much of it sounds so good. And a lot of that reason is because they have $1 million production behind it.
Right.
So they have the best piano players. They have the best engineers and the best mixers and masters that know how to make shit sound good. And then you got people putting $100,000 vocal processing on their vocals to just make it sound so good to listen to. But the shit they're saying is trash.
Right.
And that's the problem, is that it sounds so good. You know, if there'll be times where I'll just be playing random shit on YouTube and it'll just be a YouTube mix and I'll be in the kitchen and something comes on and I'm like, damn, that sounds good. But what they're saying is ridiculous.
Right.
So I and I'm not going to say I run right and change it every time, because I'd be a liar if I did. And I'd be a liar if I said that I've never went back and played a song twice, but I always call myself out like, Ron, what are you doing? You're falling into the trap.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I call myself out on these things, but I'm not a perfect human being. I do stupid shit. But I think listening to this music that sounds good, but is trash, I think listening to that is stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling the person that's listening to it stupid, but I'm just saying it's a stupid act because the influence is very real, man.
The influence is real.
So, and that's leading back to, you know, I can only hope to positively influence just one person, you know, just one person, and I've done my job.
Well, I'm raising my hand because you've already positively influenced me. So
Then I've done my job. I've done, you know, so.
there's no doubt in my mind, because I grew up listening to basically as my own choice of music, rap and R&B, you know, so I can tell you that rap had an influence on my behavior. And so I'm not saying rap would have an influence on everyone's behavior. I would say that media has the possibility to have influence on people. Now, whether or not there's a certain subsect of people that could be influenced, whether or not it takes being raised in an unstable family environment that could cause it, whatever the combination of chemical and environmental influences are, it can and does have an effect on people. I'm not saying everyone, and I'm not saying people should not be held responsible for their actions. I'm not saying that if someone does something negative to somebody else, they should be able to blame it on media. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that young minds are impressionable, you know, yeah. And much like going back to Rogan, you know, his podcast has been going for 12 or 14 years now. It might just be that he's getting old and set in his ways.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
So, but young minds are impressionable. So to not acknowledge that everything that you put in your body has an effect. It doesn't matter if it's audio or visual or chemical or a food. It all has an effect, you know, and to deny that things have an effect when you ingest them, to me, is being dishonest.
Very dishonest. You know, if you haven't ever looked up even just what different frequencies can do to water, I suggest maybe I can maybe put that in the description too, because it's really interesting. And what's really interesting about that whole situation is the human body is what, like 70% water or something ridiculous.
Maybe even more. Yeah,
maybe even more.
There.
It's a lot.
It's up there.
So we're like over 50% water. Let's
right.
just say that to be safe. I think it's more like 70 or 80, but we're like a large percentage of water. And certain frequencies will disturb water, whereas certain frequencies will do these really harmonious, neat things to water that make them. I'm just going to put the video and let the video explain itself.
I think I know which video you're talking about.
It goes back.
Here's the thing. Like, it's hard because these aren't, unless you're listening to alternative forms of media or seeking out alternative information, these really aren't topics that get discussed a lot in mainstream. So it's hard for a lot of people to entertain an idea that they've never been exposed to before. So when you talk about how certain things cause an effect, whether it's a frequency or it's a chemical, or it's a sound, or it's a visual, or it's a smell. All these things have cause and effect.
Yes.
So when you talk about something as controversial, or the topic is heavily, it's, I guess, heavily weighted, when you say something like mind control, I'm not talking about someone taking over your mind and then making you physically do something that you wouldn't normally do. I'm saying mind control can be as simple as me saying the word hammer.
And the way that you say it.
Yeah.
The font, if you was to be reading the word hammer, the font that they use to type the word out. I mean, there's so many things. Everything that you do has some sort of effect.
Yeah.
And they have these people that they get together, and they know statistics of these things.
They maximize effect.
They maximize effect. Like I said, whether it's a font.
But just a conversation with somebody, they're having a little bit of mind control over you, because just them saying the word hammer,
Is
your
affecting the way
brain
you're
processes
thinking.
that.
Oh, dude,
and
anything.
so you automatically think hammer. They just made your mind think the word hammer by
Absolutely.
using sound waves that come out of their voice. You see what I'm saying? So that is a small form of mind control. Like,
Absolutely.
it's a loaded term, and I'm not trying to say that you can completely take over someone's mind and make them do something. I'm not saying it's impossible, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be that deep to be considered mind control.
Right.
Mind control is simply just having some control over someone else's mind. And it's as simple as just saying a word.
Right.
Right. If you know someone likes or dislikes a certain smell, presenting that smell to them affects their mind in a way that could be predictable by you if you know what that smell has the effect on that person, So that's a form, just
It's
mind
all
control.
these things.
But then when you look at something like MK Ultra, which was the CIA's secret mind control program, and I wish I had this statistic in front of me, but you can look it up. But I'm going off memory, so
We need to start putting the computer up.
Yeah, so you can look it up to see the actual number, and it's either 2.5 million or 25 million. I can't remember, but part of what they would experiment on is they would see what the effect of forcing someone to listen to the same phrase like 25 million times had.
Jeez.
25 million times. This was a program doctors participated in hospitals, that professors at some of the top universities participated in. Harvard. That's where they got Ted Kaczynski, dude. He was 16-year-old genius at Harvard. One of the professors took him under his wing, and then he was abused by the CIA during MK Ultra.
Right.
At 16 years old.
And that's fact.
Yeah, this is fact.
That's fact.
This is fact.
Right.
This isn't speculation. They actually covered it in the series that they did, Manhunt, which is a great series.
It was.
Which
really
was surprising that they put that in there. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
But
I know.
there's been so much mainstream exposure of MK Ultra. In fact, Dad sent me a text the other day and said, they're talking about MK Ultra on NPR, and I thought of you. I thought that was kind of weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have to wonder why they're releasing that information to the public. Is it to open our eyes to something bigger that's about to come out? Will it make us accept that a little better?
Right.
Because we knew that this happened already?
I think Truth Stream Media did a pretty good coverage that on a perspective I hadn't thought about. Now they're doing damage control. Now they're saying that pretty much all of the negative things that the CIA ever did was because of one person, Sidney Gottlieb.
So what do they call that? A scapegoat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that's nuts.
Like they're scapegoating. I think they're just trying to control the narrative. I think I think that they've been faced with having to deal with that this information is coming out. So now they're just trying to pinpoint it on someone that's no longer alive to defend themselves.
How can you even do that?
Right.
Just don't believe that. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
I mean, it seems...
That just shows you how stupid our government thinks we are, dude.
Yeah. It's very convenient, let's say.
Very convenient.
You know, because there are a lot of sketchy things that the CIA has been involved in and continues to be involved in. You know, actually, Jeffrey Epstein claimed to have worked for the CIA at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a really good lady that people should look up. Her name's Whitney Webb. She's done a 4 or 5 part series on Jeffrey Epstein through mintpressnews.com. And she goes deep, dude. I mean, she digs into every detail about every detail of anyone that's ever been directly involved with Epstein, and covers it. And it's she was on Tripoli's podcast recently, and I just listened to her on the Higher Side Chats podcast today. She was on yesterday, and I listened to the podcast today.
Oh, that's a good podcast too.
Yeah,
I haven't
Greg
listened.
Carlwood.
I haven't listened to many of them on my own. I don't know that I've listened to any of them on my own.
They're really good.
Sam Tripoli and Rogan keep me occupied on podcasts.
It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard, man. Tripoli's kind of new. Rogan's established. Greg Carlwood of the Higher Side Chats, he's established. He's been 8 or 9 years going.
I've been
with the
wanting to start
podcast.
checking out some of oh gosh, don't tell me I can't think of his name. Who's one of the most frequent guests on Rogan, and I just love this dude.
Graham Hancock.
No.
Duncan.
Duncan.
Russell?
God, I love Duncan, and he's got
Yeah.
his own podcast.
Yeah.
And I haven't listened to one yet, dude.
Family Hour. or
I
something
have
like
to go do that because I've seriously sought out every Rogan episode because they have good conversation.
They do,
So-
and they're comfortable. You can
Right,
tell.
that's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
have really good conversation.
Yeah.
So there might be a couple that I haven't seen because he's been on there so many times, but I have literally sought out every Rogan episode with Duncan in it, dude.
Yeah.
They're all just so great.
And Duncan brings out the best of Rogan.
Oh,
and that's how I know,
absolutely, dude.
and that's how I know that
Absolutely.
Rogan respects opinions that he doesn't believe with. That's why it was so hurtful to me to see what he did to Dan Aykroyd,
Yeah.
because if that was Duncan sitting over there, he wouldn't have said anything like that.
Yeah.
The thing to me is just how much I've seen him, and I'm not saying people can't grow and change their mindset, but he seemed much more in tune with his spiritual side years ago before he had a lot of the material things that he probably has now. And I'm not saying, correlation is causation. I'm not saying that's why. I'm just saying I personally think that when you're really tied up in the material world, the spiritual world doesn't seem as appealing sometimes because you have all these shiny things.
And also, the CIA isn't going to, they don't want anyone to push spirituality.
No. No.
So if it has been that's just another speculation. I mean, no one, the CIA and the government, they don't want people to promote spirituality.
No.
That's more or less promoting the very opposite of what the system represents.
Yeah.
Materialism, consumerism, egoism, all these things.
Things. Yeah.
Things. And that's what's stupid right now is, it's funny to me too because I've manifested all these things because I've been buying and selling to make a living. But it's funny because I look at these things, they're not for me, they're just to take in and move out, just to pay my, they're a tool. All these things, they mean nothing to me. It's just a means to an end to pay my bills.
Right.
But it's just funny.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that, I think whether it's genetic or environmental, Dad's always been interested in different cultures and stuff. And he always had, reggae music playing,
Dad's
and
huge part. And,
Russian rugs hanging on the wall. It's a big thing in Russia. They hang rugs on the wall. Dad would have a rug hanging on the wall, listening to Jamaican music.
Had Buddha statues.
Buddha statues.
Good vibes, man.
Just intaking of all, not choosing one and then,
right.
Just intaking of all, and that definitely, I feel like, had an influence on the way that I view the world.
Dude.
A lot of people aren't as lucky as we were to.
It shows you he was promoting good energy.
Yes.
He was promoting love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He was promoting love, happy, joy, just these positive words. He was promoting positivity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And definitely that stuck with us. How could it not? Some households aren't so lucky because they have very mean parents for whatever reason. We don't know what them people went through to become so hateful, but we was very lucky to be around such positive influence.
Yes.
For sure.
I agree.
Definitely stuck, dude.
I agree.
Sade, Bob Marley.
Yes.
I mean, Sade is one of my all-time favorites. I haven't listened to her as much lately. You go through phases and kicks.
Yeah.
In a couple months, there might be a few weeks where all I do is play Sade.
Right.
She's one of my go-tos. Just in the past few months, she hasn't been one of my go-tos, but God, I love
listened to her
Sade,
in a little
dude.
while either.
I love Sade.
I haven't listened to a whole lot of music in general, because I've been kind of vegging out on podcasts, but of course there's the go-tos like Vancouver Sleep Clinic and
It's my go-to.
yeah. We should make a
Neat
a
little
page,
playlist or something.
yeah, a playlist on or a page on the website.
I did that a while back.
areyoaware.info.
Not on one of our cool websites, but I did that.
Yeah.
I did our cool websites. Like we got. I don't even know why I said that.
Because they're cool, man. They're cool. They are cool. Websites are, when the internet started, that's all there was. Like there was personal websites. You didn't have social media. You didn't have, I mean, you had email, you had some news groups. But the web, I've watched the web evolve over time. And one of the first things that was really unique about the World Wide Web was the fact that you could make your own website and you could have control over it and you could have a message board and form a little community on your website. You know, a lot of that's been lost. You know, people don't do that anymore. We did, yeah. On realitybasement.com.
Damn, we did too, didn't we? That was fun.
Yeah, we had a little message board.
As a matter of fact, I want to say someone just messaged me or commented on something that I posted within the last month or two. And I want to say they referenced either the message board or MySpace. He was like, I can't remember which one it was, but he was like, he was like, man, I knew I should have bought one of them CDs from your message board or MySpace. Maybe it was MySpace. Maybe that's why I thought. But regardless, it was a super old thing. And I was like,
throwback.
I remember saying, I was like, man, thanks for paying attention. You know, maybe you didn't buy a CD, but that's okay. Like, you still was paying attention, and I appreciate that, you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Really cool.
And then to give me that memory 15 years later was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. Everything's so compact and controlled now. You know, the internet, and I'm not saying there aren't still some aspects. You still can make a website. But people aren't driven to websites like they used to be because that's all there were.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now it's just so easy for someone to make an account on Facebook. And now you can even use your account on Facebook
as
to
a
log in.
Website. It's like a
personal website, and you can use it to log into websites you've never been to. Create an account, log in with your Facebook.
It's super weird.
Yeah, you don't even have to like make an effort to explore anymore.
Right.
You make an account on Facebook, and then
That's weird in itself.
It's weird. That's weird.
That's really weird in itself.
Yeah. And I haven't been on Facebook, and I'm not critical of anybody on Facebook. Like I used Facebook a lot when I was promoting the photography stuff.
It's definitely government,
but
agency.
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, it's really not even debatable. They've opened private messages up to governments. A lot of people don't know this term. There's a term called parallel construction, and it's basically where if one government agency gets information about a person, they can give that information to another government agency, and then that other government agency has to find a way to make it look like they legally obtained that information. So the NSA has been caught giving the DEA information about people on Facebook. And then the DEA has to go and find a way to make it look like they obtained that reason or that information legally. And that's called parallel construction.
Oh, wow.
And this is documented. This isn't speculation. Look it up online. Literally, anything that you ever do, you're not in control of that information. You know, if you have a website, for the most part, you can take down that information and maybe nobody ever saw it. You know, if you put something up and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to say it like that. That could be interpreted wrong. Let me change it. And it's gone. You know, like now there might be laws on how long your web host has to retain information just in case something illegal was posted and they needed to find if it was ever posted. But generally, it's gone after a 48-hour hold period or something. So, but with Facebook, you might delete something, but it's not gone. Wow. I mean, it's still on the Facebook servers. They don't delete anything. Everything is saved infinitely forever.
Permanent temporary files.
Yeah.
Create.
Absolutely, yeah. So you don't even have control of your content.
Wow.
So not just looking at it from like the perspective of the government is using it to what I consider illegally spy on people, but it's also just not giving you complete control of your own content.
Mm.
Not only that, but of course, in these terms of service agreements, that most people don't read or even know how to understand.
Right.
You're signing over your content when you upload it to Facebook. So if they ever wanted to use it for whatever reason
You've
they
already
want,
given them
they can.
that right.
You're giving them permission.
Wow.
You know.
I watched that Facebook movie they come out with a few years ago. And it was an interesting movie, but that was when I was more interested in watching movies.
Right.
Now I just don't devote time to watch movies.
I don't either. It's so weird because I used to be such a movie buff.
a movie buff, you know, and I
Yeah.
did see a lot of good movies.
Yeah.
And I would gladly recommend a lot of movies that I've seen. And I'm glad to have seen so many movies. I spend my time differently these days.
Yep.
But what I remember saying to you is like, I wouldn't be surprised if that whole movie was just a lie, just to put out the narrative of this is how Facebook was created.
To make it look organic.
To make it look
Sure.
organic.
Absolutely.
I'm speculating, but that's because that's what I do on my own time. I just think.
Sure.
I don't even like the word speculate. I'd rather just say think.
Right.
You know, I'm just thinking of different things.
Right.
So I was just thinking is like, it's very possible that this is not the way that happened.
Oh,
and it's very possible that the government just got with some smart people and said, hey, let's do this.
It's absolutely possible. And
You know.
what people don't realize, things like researching the CIA's technology investment group, it's called InQtel.
That's, yeah.
INQTEL. Look it up. They've got their own website and admit what they do. I mean, it's speculative who they invest in because that's not always public. What's not speculation is that they invest in startup tech companies secretly without ever telling anyone. So they can have access to that technology and they'll unorganically, but make it look organic, push people to the forefront of whatever they invest in. So whether it's I'm not saying this is factual because there's not documented evidence that's been released to the public yet at this point that they've done that with Facebook. But when you realize they've done that with hundreds, if not thousands of other companies that are now the leaders of whatever market they're in. Thank you. It's not outside the realm of
very possible.
Realistic speculation that they've done the same with Facebook.
Right.
You know, actually, what's even crazier is DARPA had, I don't know if I've ever told you this or not. DARPA had a website that they wanted to try to convince people to log in and give them their information. It was going to be called LifeLog. You can look this up on Google, or not Google. Use DuckDuckGo or StartPage or some search engine that's less likely to skew search results.
That's so crazy.
But yeah, look up LifeLog from DARPA. It was a project by the government where they were going to try to get people to create accounts on this website and give them information. So like where they're at, what they're doing.
Which is exactly what we're happily doing with Facebook.
Yeah. You know when they ended that project?
The day Facebook started.
Yep.
You did tell me this.
Weird, dude. What a weird coincidence.
And the reality I exist in, there's no such thing as coincidence.
That's a weird. It's weird.
You know.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know.
It's very weird.
Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it.
It's very, very weird.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, once I'm just gonna throw this out there. This has nothing to do with anything, but when you know facts like the government has, the CIA has backdoors into a vast majority of routers in the United States. Okay, that alone is weird. But when you understand that Wi-Fi technology can do way more than just send internet data, it can actually make a 3D map of everything that the signal bounces off of, and it can store that information. They can basically spy on you without you having a camera in your house.
Dude,
now
weird.
They might not get, and I could be wrong, I'm speculating, but I'm guessing it doesn't translate color, but they at least can understand when people are in certain rooms and the layout of a room. I mean,
but it very well could speculate color.
It could. That frequency, the Wi-Fi frequency could bounce differently off different colored surfaces, man.
Reality is strange.
We
don't know shit.
We don't know.
The way I perceive the world, there's no such thing as coincidence. So when I have this weird thought and then look at my news feed and what I was just thinking of is on my news feed, to me, that's not coincidence. To me, the only logical thing, because I'm a deep thinker, to me, the only logical thing is to say that, and I know it sounds nuts, but the only logical thing is to realize that there's something out there that is transmuting a thought and translating that with some sort of and I know it just sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous, but to me, that's the only logical thing, because it's not like I'm on the phone having a conversation with you or texting someone my thought. I'm just simply having a thought. I don't associate with a lot of people. I know we've talked about this, but that's because this is really strange to me.
Yeah.
You know, that could be part of the Wi-Fi technology in itself. And I think
Yeah.
we've talked about that on the pilot maybe. Dude, it's so strange to me that I have to think about it because...
You have to consider it.
Well, yeah,
for sure.
because I do consider it. And I consider it, and the way I perceive the world, is it to be the only logical explanation. I can't think of anything that makes more sense than that. And that is the strange part about it. That's what I find to be very, almost not scary, because I don't live in fear, but it's freaking weird, man. If they can possibly do this, and we don't know nothing,
right?
What they're capable of, you know?
Right. Well, they're able to. Here's the thing too: is they're able to monitor data that we don't have access to, right? So everything that you do online gets recorded and stored and analyzed for
marketing purposes
and more.
So, yeah, right.
So let's just pretend for a second that they know that people are most likely to search for a pet collar at 6:35 p.m. for whatever reason. Maybe they don't even know why, right? But they're able to have that data because they record all that data. So let's say they just know at 6:45 p.m. on Tuesdays, those are the days that most people search for a pet collar. They could know to advertise that
at that time
to the majority of the people,
right,
to have the most.
That's what we said in statistics. They are down to, when it comes to statistics, dude, they got it down.
Yes.
They got it down.
That reminds me of a video that I saw yesterday that I meant to link to you, and I haven't yet. So I would like to just tell you basically what the video discusses.
Okay.
And it's not a TED Talk, but I think it's at a college or at some sort of convention where it's the guy that made this, or the guy that's part of the team that made the first quantum computer. This was uploaded to YouTube in 2015, so it was uploaded 4 years ago. I'm not sure the exact date that the conference took place, but I had no idea that this was a part of reality now. Basically, what he says in this video is that quantum computers are accessing parallel realities in another dimension to figure out the possibilities of something that couldn't be figured out without being able to do that. Basically saying that there are computers in 2015 that were computing based off information they're pulling out of a parallel universe.
No, I have not seen this.
Dude, I'm telling you,
link it to me so I can link it in the description.
Okay.
Please. Because the more information we can link is the better.
Yeah, it just sounds like science fiction, right? Like, just me saying that.
Dude.
In a room full of people that don't get information outside of what's shown on television.
It's going to make you sound like a straight lunatic.
Yeah.
They lock people up for this.
Right.
People, they feed people meds and call them paranoid schizophrenics.
Yeah.
People get these weird labels because people, I mean, dude, I think it's very important that people know this information. But I know exactly what you're saying, because that's how I feel about saying what I just said.
I watched a video. I worked for a computer company almost 20 years ago now, and they got all these different computer magazines. And of course, the internet was around, but it wasn't. The amount of information on the internet like doubles. I can't remember now. You can look up the article, but it doubles in a relatively short amount of time because so many people are producing content now. But 20 years ago, that was a different story. Like, internet was revolutionary, but it didn't have near the amount of content. I mean, it still had more content than anybody could ingest in their lifetime, but it was still very limited. I read an article 20 years ago that blew my mind in multiple ways. It was actually two different articles. One was an article about a machine they hooked up to a guy. You can go on their website and actually watch the video. I read it in a Wired magazine. They had a picture of it, the image in the magazine, and it said, check the video out on our website. So, of course, I wanted to see the video. But basically, the whole thing was they had a machine hooked up to a guy's mind, and told him to think about objects. And the computer translated those objects into an image.
Mm-hmm.
And you could watch that video
Wow.
online
Oh,
20 years ago. Okay. Different article, but along the same topic. They gave someone vision that didn't have vision. So they gave someone the ability to see that was
Wow.
blind. And I can't remember. I don't think he was born blind. I think there was some sort of genetic condition that caused him to go blind. But he'd been blind since he was like 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
And I want to say it was artificial eyes. They put artificial eyes in his brain that plugged into, or in his head, that plugged into the back of his head, into his brain, and transmitted an image to his brain at 4 frames per second.
Wow.
So he could see, but everything looked
Choppy.
fairly choppy,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
his depth perception was really off. And this was an article I read 20 years ago.
Oh, dude. I mean,
Okay,
that's
so-
reality's strange.
And this is information that was released to the public 20
Right,
years ago.
Right.
So
They are controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
They are very, they spend a lot of time deciding what they are going to release to us.
Yes.
Which goes to this too, you have to wonder and kind of be cautious about this, because does that mean they're going to start prosecuting people in the future for thoughts that person had
right.
to prevent stuff? Reminds me of the Tom Cruise movie,
The Minority Report.
Minority Report.
Yes.
So, you have to wonder, and this is just me being too deep of a thinker, you have to be. Did they put that movie out to promote that idea?
Predictive programming, man.
Predictive programming.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that is or isn't.
But
It's just a possibility in my mind.
entertain the idea, because
I
if it ever
entertain the
comes
idea.
out that that's what they did, it should not be a surprise. Like, you
Right.
should have at least contemplated the
Right.
possibility.
Right. But that is just a strange a topic. Are they going to start prosecuting people because of thoughts they had?
Right.
That's scary.
That is scary. But you can see things like that already happening in China, for example. China has a social credit system. I don't know if, I'm not the expert on exactly how it works, but the idea behind it is you get a credit score, but not just like a monetary credit score. You get a social credit score. So, like, let's say
Oh,
that
wow.
the
That's that
government,
Black Mirror episode.
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. So let's say this, right? Like, the government knows that I'm critical of them. My score is low. Your score goes down just for voluntarily associating with me.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So places of work will not hire you if you have a low social credit score.
Wow.
So there's a financial incentive for you to even participate in the system. If you want to participate in their system,
Wow.
you have to associate with people that basically are pro-system, because
Wow.
your social credit score
What a
goes
way
down.
to control the narrative.
This is happening right now. This
That's-
isn't speculation. This isn't
Dude.
something that's dystopian future.
Wow.
This is happening now and has been for years.
Yeah. There's some crazy places over there, man, from the few
weird.
things I've heard. That's so weird. I think we should wrap this one up, bro. We're about 2.5 hours in.
Sounds good.
I think it's been a great episode. A lot of information on this one, man.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
Always.
Yeah, definitely. Seriously, check the description, because we'll put some good video clips in there.
Yeah, always.
New song coming out.
New song coming out. Enlighteninstrumentals.com.
I know I haven't been active on there. I've been catching
Everything's
up
a
on
work
things.
in progress.
Everything's a work in progress for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
Good Vibes Session Volume 1 is still coming out, and it's going to be nice. It's just taking a little time, but
Areyoaware.info.
areyoaware.info. So many things manifested some great stuff, bro.
Yes.
I'm proud of us.
Yes. Everything is. This is all new. I mean, it's not all new as far as like the technology that is allowing us to create this, but it's areas of possibility that are new to us as far as the way that we're doing it.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
everything happens over time, and I think,
Organic.
yeah,
We're
it's
just
organic.
allowing it to be organic. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I really love about the podcast is
Something-
I think it gives people backdoor access to us as
How we
individuals and how we
Absolutely.
think. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's something that I needed to take your advice on more too. In the past, we've had these conversations where I've set dates and time frames for things, and you've just said, Ron, maybe you should just let it happen organically, not
Yeah.
set a date for it. And I've been a little better at that, but me saying, oh, Good Vibe Sessions will be done in a week. Like, I shouldn't do that. I know better. So it'll be done when
I understand the conflict though, because you want to set
give
a
myself
goal.
goals.
Yeah,
Give myself
I
goals.
respect that, and I
Yes,
totally
yes, yes.
understand. It's so I get the conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to walk the line. And I also know that could be it's just a good goal to have.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Nothing wrong with goals.
areyouaware.info. I suggested that we start a Patreon page. So that's something in the near future once we get a little more on a schedule.
Yeah.
And start doing like more. We're gonna be doing video pretty soon, so that I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
No dates, but it is.
No dates, but
It
it's
is still.
it's a
in the
work and a
works.
goal.
It is a work and a
And
goal.
It'll happen.
Slowly getting things ready for that.
Yes.
So that'd be neat.
The thing with video and audio is great, and a lot of people, even if we do video, I'm sure we'll still listen to audio.
Sure.
But the great and negative thing about video, the video, obviously we're in control, so we can do it however we want. But video just takes a lot more setup than audio.
More setup.
Like we're just sitting here in nothing but a one finger glove right now. Nobody has any idea.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I have a sock on my ear, and nobody knew that the whole episode. And every time you've looked up at me, you pointed to your ear, like, why do you have that sock on your ear? And I just ignored you.
Right.
So, but no, I'm kidding. No, but video, there's just a lot more setup.
A lot more setup. But it can be more personal for the viewer.
Dude.
They feel like they can hear the
I
conversation.
think there's a benefit. We can put things on the screen if we wanted
Sure.
to talk about videos. We could even play video clips. I mean, there's a million benefits
They
to
would have
video.
seen the sock on your ear.
Yeah, they would have seen it because I would have edited in after the video.
They would have seen the sock.
I would have seen
On
it.
that note, dude, let's wrap it up. Check out the podcast. Links for social media sites would be in the description. My brother doesn't do the Facebook and all that crap. I did just create an Are You Aware page for our Facebook. And damn it if I can't remember the I want to say it's Are You Aware podcast, /Facebook.com or whatever that
link is.
However you type that in, but I'll definitely link it in the description. So definitely follow the Facebook page because we'll keep that updated, and I'm thinking about like all the descriptions, all the links to the stuff I'm going to put in the description. That maybe I'm going to start picking and choosing some of them to throw on there. Just random stuff. If we have T-shirts and merchandise in the future, we'll throw it on there too. But
I'll tell you something's kind of cool. Just as the last thing I'll say, I figured this out. And of course, if you're listening to this in a month or in a year or in 10 years, it might not be the same way. But if you go to YouTube and just type Aware Podcast, we're the first result.
We are?
Yeah.
Nice.
First result. Aware
Nice.
Podcast. So
Aware
that's kind of cool.
Podcast. Definitely follow our YouTube page. So just type in, but we'll put it in the description too. But you can find us by just typing in Aware Podcast. So that's pretty dope.
Yes.
But
really cool.
yeah, and if you haven't checked out any of our older podcasts, check them out. They're kind of fun.
They are fun. And there's we're on all streaming podcasts as far as we're on iTunes and
Oh, we are on iTunes.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We're on iTunes. We're on we're not on SoundCloud because to put out podcasts at a frequent basis you have to pay a monthly fee. My last email is we're submitting your podcast to additional podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It can take a few business days for podcasts to be approved by these platforms, but we'll email you immediately anytime your podcasts become available somewhere else.
Some of the other, I know there's a handful of other ones too, because I remember sharing the links to them. I actually have a link that has a bunch. You can click one link and then find where we're available at. So I'll see if I can find that.
Here's our link to iTunes podcast. Your podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts. So I don't know if that, honestly, I'm not a Mac user. So I don't know if that means it's actually iTunes.
Oh, it might just be Apple Podcasts. It might be
Okay.
two different things. That's cool though, too, though.
Yeah.
That's cool. Apple Podcasts is good.
All right.
Man, it's been great. Great conversation,
Always
bro.
great, my brother.
Next
I love
time,
you, man.
fist pound. I love you, bro. And if you're listening, like, we love you. I love you.
Love.
Check out the new song. It's called Casualty of War, and it should be out. It will be out by the time you listen to this because I'm publishing it tonight. Peace.
At least 108 million people were killed in wars in the 20th century. Estimates for the total number killed in wars throughout all of human history range from 150 million to 1 billion people. We are all victims
to the system.
He's just a kid and he's trying to find his way. He's about to have a baby, might not even graduate. Recruiter at the school told him sign a piece of paper and he'll get a big old bonus, early leave with extra pay. He said okay and signed his name along the dotted line. Kissed his mother on the cheek, told her he's gonna be fine. Gave his girl a promise ring, told her soon as he gets back they'll get married. Never would've thought he's only coming back to be buried. But back to the story, from boot camp to Iraq he's deployed. He wouldn't swat a nap, but now he's got a gat to destroy. I feel bad for the boy, all he wanted was to laugh and enjoy, but took two in the back, ended up another casualty of war. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious, but in the end it's our decision. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious, but in the end it's our decision. She's about to have a baby in 11th grade. Her mother passed away from cancer, she can't catch a break. Her boyfriend just got on a bus, he's about to go away. Handed her a ring, said I love you baby, keep it safe. And plan on wedding date, now it's December 21st. She's giving birth, it went successful. Had a little baby girl, brought life into this world. On Christmas Day she got the call, her boyfriend passed away. He was shot twice right in his back, both shots were by mistake. His baby's only 4 days old, he never seen her face. Growing up without a daddy is driving this little girl crazy. She's all grown up now and now she protests against war daily, doing all she can while understanding that she's a war baby. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious, but in the end it's our decision. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious, but in the end it's our decision. Recruiters recruiting victims, we blindly fight for the system because our minds are in prison. Can you envision a world without division? Call me superstitious, but in the end it's our decision. Can you imagine a world without war? A world without fear? A world without guns? A world without tears? Recruiters playing with lives, fighting over invisible lines. How dare we justify a death for a line?
Peace.
Peace.